Hi, welcome to the Rider Sports Report. I'm Corolla Pascal. Our first guest speaker was Mark Zumoff, who is a play-by-play announcer for NBC Sports in Philadelphia. He currently calls games for the Philadelphia 76ers and the Philadelphia Union. Let's take a look back at what he had to say.
People that I broadcast to are fans. So I know what they're thinking. I know what it is that they want to know, need to know. I know how they view the game in terms of the fact that they want the team to win. So my perspective is their perspective. I think you have to be careful, though, as a fan, not to allow that to interfere with what it is that you have to do. Where we were in LA playing the Lakers.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so there was a situation where we were down 2, and I think the anticipation was that we were just going to try to tie the game, and Andre Iguodala tried a three-pointer at the buzzer and hit it, and we won.
The Sixers down 2, going for the win! Yes!
So I think that ranks pretty high up there. The most important thing in that regard is trust. So players are being, I don't want to say attacked all the time, but people are constantly coming at them, wanting something, whether it's a quote, whether it's an appearance, whatever. So players tend to be very cautious, and many times they limit who it is that they interact with. So when they see me at practice, they see me at shoot-arounds, they see me at games, they see me on the plane, and then I go in the locker room and I try to acquaint them with who I am and what it is that I'm doing, they learn to trust me. Internships are really good. Interns eventually get hired. Internships are really good, too, because they help you to not only learn a lot about what's going on.
We were so happy to meet Mark and to hear about his career. To learn more about Mark, check him out online at markzumoff.com.
Our second guest this week was Aaron Carter, who is a sports journalist for the Philadelphia Inquirer. He covers all Philadelphia sports teams and uses social media to cover live games.
Oh man, it was a heartbreaker. I thought the season was over. If I'm being honest, if I'm being 100% honest, I thought the season was over right there. It was one of those sort of innocuous plays too that was like, wait, when did he get hurt? Did he get hurt early in the game? And then Nick Foles had the bad game. I think it was against the Cowboys. He had a terrible game, and I thought for sure that the season was over. Luckily, it wasn't.
And,
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, the NFL is a place that's always searching for the hot quarterback. It's sort of like the hot goaltender in hockey, and he's that guy. And someone will pay him a boatload of money at some point to be their starting quarterback, and that's what that's part of the rewards you get for doing what he did. I think probably the biggest surprise to me, so probably the Phillies, because they're sort of ahead of their timetable that at least everyone expected. Probably one in A1 is the Sixers, because I didn't think that they would turn it around that quickly. You saw some limitations that they still have against Boston in that series, was trying to find someone to get points for them at the end of a game when it really matters. But I think that, with maturity and with more years playing, maybe adding a veteran scorer or something like that, I think they're in great position.
For more information on Aaron, head to Philly.com.
All of the students in our group also had the chance to catch a Trenton Thunder game and learn about what it's like to be a radio play-by-play announcer from the voice of Trenton Thunder, John Moses. Let's take a look back at our visit to Waterfront Park.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Gosh, I would love to be in a position where I'm doing network level television for CBS or an ESPN, calling basketball. But I'd also love to be in a position where I have an opportunity to do Major League Baseball.
What do you prefer, radio or the TV?
Well, people tell you the TV is easier. I think in my experience, I've also sort of understood that TV is a little bit easier because you just sort of play traffic cop. Radio, you have to be the entire picture. Television sort of allows you to have some leeway and set up your color announcer in a way that you may not be able to on radio. So I would say TV is slightly easier, even though the preparation is still significant.
What's your favorite sport to call?
Basketball. The speed of it, the number of players that you prepare for is less than you would for a typical baseball game and way less than a football game. Definitely basketball.
What was your favorite moment of calling a Thunder game?
Boy, there are probably a few. The first game that Trenton hosted in 2015, when the Thunder had Aaron Judge and Gary Sanchez and Luis Severino and Greg Bird and Mason Williams and Jake Cave. I mean, it was a prospect-packed team. The Thunder rallied to tie the game at 3 in the bottom half of the 9th inning, and then Aaron Judge came to the plate with the bases empty and 2 out in the 10th inning and hit a walk-off home run that I'm not sure has landed yet. A shot that went over the wall in deep left field, and it's probably one of the most memorable moments I'll ever have in baseball.
Who is your favorite player to call for baseball? Just like to talk about on the radio.
Now that's really an interesting question. I would say that, there are players that are interesting because of who they are, right? In some cases it's for the baseball ability, but in other cases it's for the background story. So for example, we have a guy by the name of Billy Fleming these days, and he grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. He came to games at Arm & Hammer Park as a kid. He had birthday parties until he was about 12 years old or so. He played there in various high school tournaments and showcases over the years, and then he comes back as a member of the New York Yankees organization and playing for the Thunder. That's sort of the type of significant story, and baseball is such a small world in that a guy that he played college baseball with at West Virginia, Ryan McBroom, has been his teammate here in Trenton because the Yankees traded for him last year. So it's those stories about players that I think are the most interesting to me.
Who's the most exciting player to watch for the Thunder?
Right now?
Yeah.
Probably right-hander Domingo Acevedo. Pitched last night. He's got a mid-90s fastball. It's really impressive. He's 6'7", 250 pounds. He's really a great guy too, which I think also sort of helps. But, you can always tell when you watch some guys that this guy's got it. And with Acevedo, you can see it.
Another very interesting guest who came to visit us this week was Mark Barzetta of WIP-FM and NBC Sports. He came in and offered helpful tips about hosting and producing TV and radio sports shows.
I quit my radio job so I can concentrate on TV. I just got married, going to be starting a family. I want to have time for that, So I was fortunate enough to have options in my career to where if things did get tough, I could go do something else. When I was a producer for Howard Eskin's radio show for a year and a half, Afternoon Drive. Did that for a year and a half, made the awful wage that was $8 an hour for 4 hours a day, and I would have to do other things. I was a basketball referee. I was a landscaper. I did all these other jobs to try to make ends meet. But at the end of the day, I knew that the radio producing job wasn't where I wanted to be long term. So I quit just the producing job. I kept my on-air stuff. I still did updates. I still hosted shows. And I went and wrote for a newspaper. I wrote for the Trenton Times covering high school sports because I could make slightly more money doing that than I could as a radio producer. When they offered me a job of being a promotions director, and I did that so I'd get a full-time salary, but on top of that, still get my on-air shifts as well. So every step of the way, I made sure that there was another option. I always knew that if things really hit the fan in radio, first and foremost, that I could always go and get more work at NBC National, working more games behind the scenes. But I wanted to be on camera. I wanted to be on the microphone. So I made sure that the path always went back to that. And right now, I'm out of radio, but I think one day I'll be back in radio. I mean, the TV show I work on now is from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. The morning radio show I was working on had me getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning every day at the latest, and then on air by 5 or 6 in the morning, depending on the day. And then I would produce or be on microphone for 4 hours for probably till about 10:30, because we'd have a post-show meeting for a half hour, and then I'd go back home about 11 o'clock, and then I'd have to be at the TV station at 2.
To learn more about Mark, you can follow him on Twitter at Mark Barzetta.
Visiting Rider University put our group close to Philadelphia and the Philadelphia Phillies. Students from our group had a great opportunity to tour Citizens Bank Park and attend a panel on sports media. We also got to enjoy the Phillies game. Here are some highlights from our trip to the bank.
Tom, how do you keep track of the game while you're in the TV booth?
Well, I have a scorebook. I actually should have brought it down with me.
They don't have theirs.
Okay. Yeah, so I have a scorebook that I make each year, and it depends on what kind of mood I'm in at the beginning of the year. I have like 3 of them that I decide from that I've used for the last 30 years. So that scorebook has a lot of my notes in it, and it has all the statistics and all the players' names and their bios and things like that. I feel like I can do any sport at this point. I can't tell you that I can do them all well the first couple of times, but if anybody asked me to do something, particularly when I was younger, like my son is 23 and is broadcasting in minor league baseball, and I've told him, if somebody asks you to do bowling, say you can do bowling. Or somebody asks you to do boxing, say you can do it. You can figure it out. I think you can figure anything out. Like, I'll ask questions on the air that I know the answer to, but I ask it because I'm trying to get the analyst to then explain it in a baseball way. Like, if I was doing a basketball game with Lauren, I would ask her a question about, why somebody in the low post, why did he go right instead of left? And she would explain that. Does that make sense? So I don't feel pressure, but I love the fact that this city cares about everything that we do. Because if I was in Kansas City, nice city, I don't know if it would be the same intensity. But I like that intensity. I like having that energy in the ballpark. And
one of our last guest speakers for the week was Chuck Bausman, who was the executive sports editor of the Philadelphia Daily News. He worked for the Daily News from 2012 to 2015 before joining Rider University's Department of Communication and Journalism as an adjunct professor. He spoke to us about his career in journalism.
Well, Philadelphia is where I happened to be born. I worked my career in a bunch of different places around the country, but the opportunity to return to what was home for me was very important. Philly is a great city, underrated city, great sports town, and being in sports journalism, for me, it couldn't have been any better. It was just the greatest.
Yeah. All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there, and they say yeah, and they stay there. Cause all I do is win, win, win. And if you going in, put your hands in the air, make them stay there.
Ludacris going in on the verse, cause I never been defeated and I won't stop now.
Well, the Flyers had a good off-season acquisition in James Van Riemsdyk, who's a good goal scorer, who's good on the power play, which the Flyers need help in. The Flyers, to me, are a young team on the rise. They missed the playoffs last year, but they made them this year, lost in the first round. But they do clearly seem to be a young team on the rise. Well, the Flyers had a good off-season acquisition in James Van Riemsdyk, who's a good goal scorer, who's good on the power play, which the Flyers need help in. And then when they acquired Van Riemsdyk, they were thinking, well, that might be the position that Simmons kind of plays on the power play. But Simmons had injuries last year, and I think clearly affected him. I mean, there's no doubt he was not playing the way he usually does. And as the Flyers, you look at that as if, okay, maybe his career is on a downhill track now. Maybe he's hit his peak and he's on the way down, or he's been a good player for us all these years. Maybe he really was just banged up and not able to perform at the level he's used to performing.
Since we're on campus for the week, we were able to spend some time meeting, interviewing, and visiting the members of Rider's athletic department. Here are some highlights of our time with the Rider Broncs.
How you doing? My name is Anthony Durham. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm with the high school at Abington Senior High School. As far as my recruitment to Rider, they were my only offer coming out of high school, so I decided to go with them because they were close to home. I actually went to prep school after high school at Putnam Science Academy in Connecticut. So I was kind of homesick, so I decided to come back here near New Jersey, which is near Philly, and go to Rider University. My experience here at Rider has been nothing but great. Good community of people, good staff. Professors really look after you. The benefit of going here at Rider, you have small classrooms, so whenever you need help with anything, the professors could meet with you one-on-one instead of like other big universities where you have classes with like 50, 60 people, when you really can't contact the professor like that. So, my experience has been here, but nothing short of great. So I'm thankful for Rider. I say, up to this point, my most memorable moment has probably been when I would say, as far as athletics, when we beat Penn State, when we knocked off Penn State, we beat them on a buzzer beater by my man Fred Scott. That was probably the best experience here so far. I know that was a big win for us, and that kind of put us like on the map as a basketball team, and for people to take us more serious as a mid-major. Yeah, definitely. I think the future for Rider basketball is in good hands. You know, I think we really set the tone this past year and years prior. But this past year that just passed, we really had a great season, 21-win season. Our expectation for this upcoming season is championship, nothing less than the championship. We're doing well recruiting guys. We got a new practice gym, new locker room. The fans are engaged. They're excited. The people in the community are excited. So this upcoming year, we're just anything but a championship is should have our goal. So that's our goal. After college, I hope to play, professionally, God willing. Keep going on with this basketball thing as far as I can go to the highest level, if that's the NBA or if that's overseas.
Well, that brings us to the end of our show. For everyone here at Rider Sports Desk, have a good night.